Good afternoon, grade 10.
Good afternoon,
Good
sir.
Good
afternoon,
afternoon,
sir.
Good
sir.
afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, sir.
I hope you're doing fine despite the current situation. And I hope that you are all safe in your home and as well as your family. Okay, so before anything else, I would like to call someone to lead our prayer. Um, is Mr. Aurelio de la Cruz present?
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay,
here.
Mr. De La Cruz, can you lead the prayer?
Okay, sir. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those trespass against us. Lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay, so again, good afternoon, grade 10. And aside from checking if you're okay, I hope that your studies are also doing great as well. Okay, Miss Secretary, do we have any absentees today? Miss Agatha?
Uh, we are all present today, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Agatha. Okay, we are going to dive into a new lesson today. But before that, I would like to open up a simple game to you, which I will call the motivation. Okay, so I know that you are all familiar with this. So it's a crossword puzzle that I know that you encounter this a lot of times, whether it may be on lessons, on newspapers, especially, or magazines and such. So I want you to, of course, answer the puzzle. And after a few minutes, I think 5 minutes or so, I will call one. I will call somebody to give the answer to the following number. Is that clear to you guys?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I'm giving you at least 5 minutes. Is that enough for you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
sir.
So the clock is ticking. So your 5 minutes starts now. How many of you guys are done? Okay, so I am
Almost done,
seeing
sir.
3 persons raising up their hands on the Google Meet. So how about the others?
Almost done, sir.
Okay, take your time well.
I'm done, sir.
Okay, how about the others? Are you done as well?
Yes,
Done, sir.
sir.
Yes po, sir.
Okay, so again, let me check if my PowerPoint presentation is presented well on your end. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's visible to
Yes,
me.
sir.
Is it presented on full screen or not?
No, sir.
No,
Not,
sir.
No, sir.
Oh, so it's just presented on the normal view. Okay, so sadly I put up animations on the answers, but again, I know that you are I know that you got the correct answers. So let's dive in. So for number one, can you read this one, please? Miss Galang.
Separate and restrict. the movement of people who were exposed to a contagious disease to see if they become sick. Quarantine.
Okay, so the crossword puzzle, the contents of the crossword puzzle is, I think, too easy for you. So, and it's timely. So I know that you're all familiar with the terms. So for number one, it's quarantine. So this is what we are currently experiencing right now. So for number two, um, let me call on Mr. Javier.
Yes, sir. For number two, it is a disease outbreak that spreads across countries or continents. It affects more people and takes more lives than an epidemic. It is a pandemic, sir.
Okay, so that's the one that currently ruining the world and as well as our lives. But anyways, I know that we are still on the fight against it. Okay. Number three, may I call on Mr. Granada?
Three, a current situation, social costume, etc. That is different from what has been experienced or done. Sir, new normal.
Okay, very good. So, new normal is the term that we use to describe what we are, what are the things that we are doing right now that is very far different from what we are doing for the past um, years. Let me say 2019, since the pandemic started to spread, and after that we are all doing things differently from way back then. So for example, we in our current education, we are doing it in the new normal way. So we are having distant learning, online classes, and such. So for number four, may I call on Miss Abigail? Miss Abigail, are you there? I think she's having internet difficulties. So, Miss Cortez, are you there?
Yes, sir. So for the
Okay.
number four, is a preparation that is administered as by injection to stimulate the body's immune response against a specific infectious agent. Vaccine po, sir.
Okay. So, since you are grade 10 students, and I assume that you are of 15 years old. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, as far as I know, the vaccine is given to the persons aged 18 above. But so far, they're having um, vaccinations for pediatrics. So it means 18, the ages 18 below. So I hope that you are going to get vaccinated as soon as possible, because we may not know what the COVID can can give to us. So, but it's definitely a very bad effect. Anyways, let's go with number five. Um, Mrs. Guerra.
Yes, sir. Num- Number five, something necessary or indispensable food, shelter, and other necessities of life. It's necessities, sir.
Okay, so um, we are still fighting for the freedom against the pandemic, and of course, we are inevitable to face these difficulties like shortage for food, shelter, and such, because it greatly affected our lives. Anyways, I hope that you are all safe, and if we can at least do for someone or help someone, somebody, um, let's just not hesitate to help them. Is it clear to you guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I obviously you got the correct answers, and sorry for the technical issue here on my PowerPoint presentation, but I know that you got it correct. Well, it's the motivational activity, and after that, we're having our objectives. So, in the progress of the lesson, students should be able to, letter A, gather factual data through systematic processes. Letter B, differentiate context from different sources of information. Letter C, write news reports, speeches, and talks using gathered information. And lastly, utilize information knowledge in everyday conversation. So, these are the goals that we have to achieve in discussing this lesson. Okay, so before we go to the lesson proper, I prepared an article for you to read. So um, it will help you to have a glimpse of what we are going to discuss today. So may I call on someone who will read the whole article, and for the rest of the class, you just have to listen and read the article with your eyes. So okay, we have few members here. I call on Mr. Gabriel Javier to read the article.
Yes, sir. When
Okay.
I first heard
Mhm.
about the news on COVID-19, I was just relaxing. But everything just changed after the announcement from the palace. It was unexpected that ECQ, or Enhanced Community Quarantine, was implemented to the entire Luzon after 48 hours. It felt like the world just stopped for a while. The next day, everything was rushing. Groceries were full and the entrance line was exceptionally terrifying. Limitation for purchasing necessities was posted, and if you're lucky to enter the grocery after just a few hours it opened, you would see empty trays and columns. Hallways were full of people who were lined up to pay for their basket and carts. Even the sari-sari stores were empty. Everyone was preparing for the 2 weeks Luzon-wide quarantines. Filling up their cabinets was their number one goal at that moment.
Okay. Another student to read these three paragraphs. Miss Galang.
When the quarantine started, the world seemed slowed down with empty roads. There were no shows on TV, and only the sirens of ambulance and barangay mobiles were the sounds you will hear from homes. It was like a zombie apocalypse or even worse. Hospitals were on high alert. All staff of every hospital was required to wear a PPE, personal protective equipment, before interacting with patients. Days after, the number of infected patients bombed every hospital. I remember that every hour there were 2 to 3 ambulances which were passing by. Each municipality also provided a quarantine pass to the chosen family member who can go outside. He or she must present the pass in every grocery, drugstore, and other business. Temperature checkers were also installed at every establishment to ensure that people who are entering each establishment would have temperatures not higher than 37 degrees.
Okay, thank you, Miss Galang. May I call on Miss Agatha Buenaventura to read this part.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
As weeks went by, the only show that people were waiting on their television screen was just the news of COVID-19. When will the ECQ be lifted? No one knows. It started in 2 weeks, and prolonged couple of months, and finally the month of August came in. When the Interagency Task Force, or IATF, lifted the quarantine to modified Enhanced Community Quarantine, or MECQ, the purpose of this said decision was to try to save the economy. Some establishments were finally seeing a light after a long sleep. Some workers work differently from their respective professions. A lot of them become online sellers, food delivery personnel, either Grab or Food Panda, and some of them tried to establish their own business. The internet suddenly became our medium of communication, food orders, transaction of bills, and a way to cope up with our boredom.
Okay, thank you, Miss Agatha. In November, a cure was finally developed. They said that it would just a matter of time and everyone will be vaccinated. Unfortunately, the virus evolved and formed other classifications or variants. Some were mere infectious and deadly. Some experts said that it was more deadly as it evolved with the help of the ecosystem of the infected person across the globe. But as time went by here in the Philippines, the restrictions were getting lighter and lighter. The virus is deadly, but on the other side of it, we saw camaraderie, we saw unity, and we saw how the system of our allied medicine personnel works all day and all night. Okay, so I hope that you um, got something from it, especially some key points to from the article rather, and to test if you really got some information. I mean useful informations from the article. So let me have these questions to be answered by you. So I will call on somebody to answer for each question. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here are the questions. So for number one, what was the reason why everyone is rushing and their goal is to fill up their cabinets with groceries? Volunteer, please. Um, Miss Agatha.
It's letter C, sir.
Okay, very good. So everyone, because everyone is in panic because of the announcement that enhanced community quarantine will be implemented. So next, number two, Miss. Okay, so Mr. Javier.
It's letter B, sir.
Okay, can you read the question first and then state your answer,
Yes, sir.
please?
What did the municipality provide to the chosen family member who can go outside? A quarantine pass, sir. Letter B.
Okay, so very good, Mr. Javier. And for the following volunteers or or the students that will be called, kindly read the question first and then state your answer. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. For the third item, may I call on Mr. De La Cruz? Oh, who's that, by the way? Oh, sorry. Let me have Mrs. Gara first, then Mr. De La Cruz. You are going to answer on the fourth item.
Number three, why do you think the palace announced that ECQ will be implemented in Luzon? Sir, it's letter C. Because of the increasing cases of COVID-19 patients in the Philippines in the year 2020.
Okay, so thank you, by the way, Miss Esguera. So for the following items, okay, Mr. De La Cruz, the floor is yours.
Yes, yes. What is the author's intention in writing this piece? Letter D. To describe the experiences on what happened during the pandemic.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. De La Cruz. For number 5, may I call on um, Miss Cortez?
For number 5, which section of a newspaper will you most likely read this piece? Uh, Letter D po, sir. News.
Come again, please.
Letter D po, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you, by the way, Miss Cortez. Your answer is correct. Okay, so for the sixth item, what can be inferred from the passage below? In November, a cure was finally developed. They said that it would just a matter of time and everyone will get vaccinated. Unfortunately, the virus evolved and formed other classifications or variants. Some were infectious and deadly. Some experts said that it was more deadly as it evolved with the help of the ecosystem of the infected person across the globe. So, what do you think is the inference from the passage? Anyone? What does the passage infers to us? Okay, so Mr. Granada.
Sir, letter A, vaccines can reduce the chances of getting infected or infecting other people.
Okay, so yes, definitely. Thank you, Mr. Granada. Okay, for the following items, what does the line below imply? So earlier we are looking for inference, then now you are going to determine what the following line implies. So the virus is deadly, but on the other side of it, we saw camaraderie, we saw unity, and we saw how the system of our allied medicine personnel works all day and all night. So, Miss Buenaventura raised her hand earlier, so the floor is yours, Miss Buenaventura.
Um, the answer is letter B. People are setting up community pantries for the less fortunate people.
Okay, so thank you, Miss Agatha. So that's what we are talking earlier. So we have the so-called bayanihan because that's our trademark. Anyways, let's move on to the eighth question. So what does the author mean by it is like a zombie apocalypse? Anyone? Excuse me. My presentation is turning different. Excuse me. Okay, so again, may I call on someone to answer the number 8 question? Um, okay, so Miss Galang, go.
Letter C, sir. No one is to be found outside.
Okay, so that's the irony of the term, no? Since quarantine has been implemented, so no one is allowed to do things outside. So again, mm, okay. So for number 9, who wants to answer? Okay, so Miss Buenaventura, please.
Number 9. What is the meaning of the underlined word in the passage below? We saw camaraderie, we saw unity, and we saw how the system of our allied medicine personnel works all day and all night.
Okay.
The answer is letter B. Being friendly and have good fellowship.
Okay, so very good. So that's what Filipinos are known for. So we have this so-called bayanihan, and despite the odds, we are still helping each other. Okay, so for the last question, oh, okay, so what can be an alternative title for the piece? Choose the best answer. So we have here A, through the confines of our house. Letter B, social distancing from the world. Letter C, embracing the new normal. And letter D, pandemic divided us all. So what do you think is the um, alternative title for the piece? Okay, so Mr. Javier.
Sir, I think the alternative title for the piece is letter B, social distancing from the world.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Javier. So that is correct because um, it fits how the text means, and of course, it reflects how our situation and I'm what is our current situation right now. So um, that's it. So we have completed the pre lesson activity. So for that, you have a thumbs up from you have a thumbs up because you did well. Okay. So after meddling with the pre lesson activity, so now we are going to dive into the lesson proper. So our lesson for today is the essential skills for reading comprehension. Because I know that you got a clue from there because I gave you an article and you carefully read and assessed what it means. So for that, you used your reading comprehension skills. So I know that you are all familiar with this, but I am giving you a few more information about it. Okay, is that clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so here are the essential skills for reading comprehension. So we have four essential skills. So first one is decoding. It refers to phonemic awareness. So um, what we mean by decoding is how we are able to literally decode words into um, how it means, how it sounds, because that's how we are going to recognize a word. So, for example, um, the article earlier that we read and answered, so you were just reading it normally, yet you knew what it meant, and um, aside from it, what is the purpose and the likes. So when it comes to phonemic awareness, it refers to the ability of a person to determine or to recognize how a word or how a letter sounds like. So that's what we meant by decoding. So it's an important rather essential skill to reading comprehension because we get to absorb the message well just by recognizing the words used in the text. So is that clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
sir.
So next one is fluency, fast recognition and reading of words. So they most of people say that if you speaks so fast, you are fluent in that language. Is that right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so talking about the English language, if you are um, very well speaking when using the English language, then you are fluent with it. So it's not just well, by definition, if you are a fast reader and speaker, then you are fluent with the language. But it's not enough that you are just fast in speaking and reading. You just also have to understand what you are reading, because if you're just um, read fast, speak fast, then understanding is not there, right? So for us to have an effective reading, well, we can develop speaking fast or reading fast, and as well as using our comprehension skills to at least have a better reading experience. So for number three, we have vocabulary, personal word bank. So for the past years we are living and studying, I know that we encountered a lot of words, yet we are not getting to use it all the time. Especially the what we call unfamiliar words. So those are the words that we are not yet familiarized. Hence the name unfamiliar words. And if we of if we come into it like an instance, then we tend to search for it for its meaning on the dictionary. Then uh, we will have the we will have the response like, ah, this is what it means. So for the next time that you encountered that particular word, then you are at least familiarized with it and what it means. So as time goes by, we are gradually collecting. We are unconsciously collecting these words, and we store it in our memories. So if you have a wide vocabulary, then at least you will not um, encounter word difficulties, especially um, especially in reading text that contains a lot of words, a lot of highfalutin words. So if you have a good vocabulary, then you will not have any problem with it. Okay, so number four, sentence construction and coherence. So I know that we are all trained here to um, construct sentences and paragraphs, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I
Yes,
know
sir.
that um, in social media, we are sharing our thoughts like one or more sentences. So with that point of view, we are getting to use coherence. So what do we mean by it? It means the smooth connection between sentences. So I know that you are just not constructing sentences, paragraphs without any connection at it, right? So I know that you are consciously following a specific flow. So just like how a story plot works, we have exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and denouement. So how we are used to. That's how we are trained in writing or constructing paragraphs. So we tend to connect and, of course, make some relevance from it, because it will be just a meaningless paragraph if the sentences will not be coherent with each other. So, do you get it, guys?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, um, here are the coherent devices, or these are the tools that we can use to make the sentences in our paragraphs coherent. So, number one, repetition of a key term or phrase. It is used to maintain focus on the flow and keep readers track. So, you're the author, so you have the control of what you are writing. And we tend to sometimes we tend to lose what we are going to write next because um, we lose ideas or information to follow. Then a repetition of a key term is used to familiarize ourselves as the author of the certain paragraph or text to keep in track with what we are writing. And aside from that, we will, I know that we should not make our readers get lost because of just reading the text that we have written. So we should have the assurance that the author or us and our readers will not um, get lost, and if you or if we got lost in reading the text, then there will be no understanding or learning. So that's the essence of the first coherent device. So next one, synonyms. To avoid redundancy and show variation of idea. Um, I know that, of course, we are familiar with synonyms, and we we tend to write sentences that describe something, and of course, um, we sometimes want to give an emphasis of what we are talking about. So we use adjectives, of course, to describe it, and there's there's that feeling that you have to, as the author, you have to emphasize this idea or word. So for you to do that, you are either adding up other adjectives or using the same adjective you used and turn it into as its synonym just to show an emphasis. So of course we have to avoid redundancy because of course in talking about formal writing, redundancy is not allowed, even if in informal writings as well. So we use synonyms just to show emphasis on the the idea, or also we use it to show the variation of the message, just not to, or I mean, just to avoid redundancy. That's the important point there. So for number three, we have pronouns to avoid repetition of phrases or sentences. So um, it's like contradicting with the first coherent device, right? Um, in pronouns, we are we are not talking about the pronouns like personal pronouns, indefinite pronouns, and such. We are talking about the pronouns that we use to refer to sentences because as I am saying here, we have a lot of ideas that we want to put in our text, right? And sometimes we accidentally include ideas that are similar or repetitive. So, in order to avoid that, we are using pronouns. So, how? For example, um, you referred to a certain sentence that contains definition about vaccine. Then, on the following third or fourth sentence, you are going to talk about it again. So, for you to avoid redundancy, you just have to use them or that or this. Do you see? Do you get what I mean, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
Yes,
the, the important thing here is to avoid redundancy in a lot of ways, of course, but we are tend to use these coherent devices. So next one, this is the, I think it's the one most common device that we use. Well, I think that you are not consciously using it, but I know that it's a part of our everyday life as an author and a student. So transitional words is used to maintain a relevant flow between sentences. So we have the common transitional devices like in addition, moreover, furthermore, um, however, and the likes. So are you familiar with those?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so these transitional words are used to introduce the following sentences or ideas in a text. So that um, the text will have a smooth flow of ideas. Okay, so for number five, reasoning and background knowledge. It means that the anticipation of a text idea just by partially reading it. So I know that you're all familiar with context clues, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so just how we use the context clues, we are just reading some parts of a text, the whole text, and then we get to predict what would happen next. So that's what the word anticipate means. So we are getting to know what would happen next in the text just by reading some parts of it. So with the use of our reasoning and logical skills, we we foresee what will happen or what would be the next idea or what does the text mean. So that's what anticipation means. So for number six, working memory and attention. Juxtaposition of focusing onto something and using mental abilities to gather information. So um, juxtaposition or juxtapose means that two things jive with each other. So with the two points here that I'm talking about is the working memory and the ability of the mind to extract information. So um, we are we if we are wanting to know something, we tend to focus for it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And if we achieve focusing onto something, then we will get something. So that's what the last coherent device means. Um, in a text, we have certain ideas that we are focusing on, right? And if we get to focus on that idea, then information will be available for us and for the readers especially. Okay, so do you have any questions or clarifications?
None, sir.
None,
None.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so having that said, we are going to move on to our next activity. Okay, so here are the instructions. Supply information taken from the news article lead below. So may I ask someone who will read the article? Okay, so Miss Buenaventura, please.
A community-initiated food bank, established to serve the hungry amid the pandemic and its economic fallout, has inspired various mutual aid efforts across the Philippines, more popularly known locally as community pantries. These food banks are spaces on the sidewalks or in plazas where people contribute food and other necessities to be taken by anyone who needs them. The first community pantry was put up in Maginhawa Street, a middle-class residential area in Quezon City, on April 14, 2021. Anna Patricia Nun, the 26-year-old organizer of the first community pantry, placed a single bamboo cart containing basic food items on Maginhawa Street by Carlo Mongaya, sir.
Okay, thank you, Miss Buenaventura. So, did you get what the news article talks about?
Yes po, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
here, here's what you are going to do. So, as you can see, we have the five WH questions below. So we have who, what, where, when, and why. So from the news article, you're going to supply these five WH questions. Is that clear?
Clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
who wants to answer number one? Who? Any volunteer? Okay, so Mr. Javier.
For number one, who? Anapratishyanon, sir.
Okay, very good, Mr. Javier. So she she is the focus on the news article. So it's Miss Anna, um, Anna Patricia nun. Okay, so for number two, wants to answer. Okay, Miss Cortez.
For the number 2 po, sir. What? First community pantry.
Okay, so that thank you, Miss Cortez. So that is the focus of the article, the first community pantry. Okay, so for number three, okay, Mr. De La Cruz.
Sir, where? Maginhawa Street, Quezon City.
Okay, thank you, Mr. De La Cruz. So um, that is the venue of where the first community pantry started. Okay, so for number four, okay, Mrs. Guerra.
When April 14, 2021.
Okay, very good, Mrs. Guerra. Thank you. And for the last one, who wants to answer for number five? Okay, Mr. Granada.
Sir, to provide for the hungry.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Granada. So that was the main purpose of Miss Ana Patricia Lon, why she started the community pantry. Okay, thank you guys. So to further test if you really got something on the discussion, I am now giving you the evaluation. So here's what you're going to do. You have to read the news report below and summarize it in 3 to 5 sentences. So you have to summarize the news report, and having said that, you have to use the coherent devices that we discussed. And aside from that, I know that you have good reading comprehension skills, so you can use it as well. Your answers should be posted on the Google Classroom thread that I will create later on. And do you have any questions?
None,
None,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so
None, sir.
aside from this, I will also giving you your assignment. So here it is. On a separate document, cite the latest news related to the COVID-19 pandemic and write an essay containing your opinion about the news. Don't forget to apply the ideas discussed. You're going to upload your work in our Google Classroom. So you are going to have two assignments here. So first one is the evaluation part and the second one is the assignment. So I will have two threads on the Google Classroom. Then you will post your works there. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes
sir.
po, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here are the references I use in creating this presentation. I hope that you are all doing fine. I hope that you are all safe in your family. And I hope that you are doing your studies well. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir. God
sir.
bless.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you
sir.
po.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you.